Okay, everybody, welcome to the test review day for Algebra II class. I realize that test review day is an important day for you and I didn't want to leave you hanging, so I cannot be there Wednesday, but I'm definitely going to post this video and hope everybody watches it and tell you right now that you have some work due Friday for this review and by Monday, I think Sunday at midnight for the test. Some of you have not finished your pre-assessment. Please make sure that's done by 9:25. They did extend it for us. You're going to have a quiz and quizzes on absolute value equations and inequalities, and that's going to look like, let's see if I have it open, that's going to look like this. So I will post that in Google Classroom and you will see it under the quizzes tab. Let me see if I can find that. So look for the top two things should be the test review and the quizzes. So when you go in, you'll have a quizzes link, okay? And then the test review will be a downloadable PDF. You can mark right on top of it. You can actually download it, make your marks on it in Cami, and then upload it back to me. And let's see. So for today, we're going to go over the 20-question test review. I'm going to do some of it as classwork, and you're going to finish the rest as homework. Please follow all of my instructions and show work, including graphs. So one of the instructions on the homework was, at the bottom it said and graph, and many of you are forgetting the part that says and graph. It's in tiny little print, so you think, well, she won't notice. I do notice. This young lady did graph, and furthermore, she set up 2 equations. I told you if you give me 1, you get a 1 for the homework, so make sure you set up 2 equations, okay? And then, of course, the test is due at midnight. So the first thing I want to show you is how you use Desmos. So if I were to use Desmos to figure out which one of these 4 equations is correct here, I could go to Desmos and type them in one at a time. And I actually did know what the answer was after I did them several times, but I'm going to show you each one of these one at a time. So I'm going to first show you the absolute value of, and then you can get absolute value by hitting your keyboard icon and then using the absolute value of A. X minus 3 is greater than 1. And when I hit return, oops, I put the greater than 1 on the inside. Get that out here. When I return, I can see that the answer looks like it goes from 2 to the left and 4 to the right. Well, that's not exactly what happens here. It's not quite at 2, and it's definitely not at 4, so I know that one's wrong. So then let me try 2x minus 5 is less than 3. So I'm going to say 2x minus 5 made this turn around to less than 3. And that's not right because that shows all my answers between some number around 1 to 4. And that doesn't go between 1 and 4. It actually goes away from 1 and 4. So then let me try 4x minus 9, and that one's up here. And you can see that this one is correct because this one shows the answer somewhere just slightly left of 2 and just slightly left of 3. So left of 2 and left of 3 going in opposite directions away from each other. So what I did is I said, well, if I know that that's the correct answer, let me go ahead and do my 2 breakout equations. Remember, if you see absolute value bars, you must have an equation per bar. If you don't see absolute value bars, you only need to do 1 equation. So my first breakout equation was 4x minus 9 is greater than or equal to 2. All you do is drop these bars for equation 1. But then my second was 4x minus 9 is less than or equal to negative 2. And I put that in red because I wanted you to see the difference between equation 1 and equation 2. So I solved both, and I got x is greater than or equal to 11/4, which is approximately 3 point something. So well, there you go. Well, I'm sorry, 2 point something. So there it is, 2.75, I think, and it goes this way. And x is less than or equal to 7/4 is 1.75, and that goes this way. You can see the arrow points it in the right direction. So I showed you how to use Desmos, and I showed you how to do your breakout equations. If you see absolute value bars, you must have 2 equations. All right, and we can do some of these others later, but so this is what your test review looks like. There are 20 questions. The first one says simplify by combining like terms. So you're still going to have variables in your answer. So if I do the first one, and I said 5 times 7 minus n plus 4n, the first thing I have to do is distribute. So 5 times 7 is 35, and 5 times negative n is negative 5n plus 4n. And now I can see right here, I have 2 like terms. So a -5 and a +4 give me -1. So I can say -1 or -n and bring down the 35. So this is simplified form. I didn't say n equals a number because I'm not solving for. If it says simplify, you usually still have variables left. Number 3 wants you to evaluate and then plug in for -1x and 5y. So you're going to distribute, and I get -3 times 4x is -12x, and -3 times -2y is +6y, and 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times y is 2y. And now I can see that the x's will add. I have a -12x and a +2x, and that gives me -10x. And the y's will also add. I have 6y and 2y, and that gives me 8y. Okay, but I'm not done yet because now I have to evaluate by plugging in. So if I were to say x is -1, so what is -10 times -1? And y is 5, so what is 8 times 5? So a -10 times a -1 is a +10, 8 times 5 is +40, and 10 plus 40 is 50. So now when it says evaluate, I do get an answer, okay? When it says simplify, you don't get just a single number, you get some expression, but when it says evaluate, you have to show me you can plug in. All right, so now this is just a typical 1 or 2 step equation, so I'm gonna do number 6. So if I said 19j plus 2 equals 36 minus 2j, I'm going to go ahead and combine j's on the same side. So I'm going to say 19j is bigger than -2j, so I'm going to add the 2 to both sides. The bigger one is like the bully, he pulls the other guy over. So the bully is 19j, so 19 plus 2 is 21j. Bring down the +2, bring down the 36, and of course -2j and +2j go to 0. So now I'm going to move the 2 over. So if I subtract 2 from both sides, I get 21j is 34. And yes, you can get a fraction answer. So if I divide both sides by 21, j is 34 over 21. Okay. Remember I told you the answer's in the back. So if you're not sure, you can go back and check. All right, so for absolute value equations, I put this note here, always do 2 equations. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this middle equation. Remember, you have to first isolate. So if I'm isolating, I'm moving everything over except the absolute value part. So this is the part I need to isolate. I need to isolate. And that means I have to first add 6 to both sides. So 36 and 6 is 42. Bring down the 3. There's the absolute value of 4z plus 2. And then of course the 6's cancel and that's 42. Now remember, do not distribute through absolute value bars. Do not say 3 times 4z and 3 times 2. Never distribute through absolute value bars. So that means I have to divide them out. So I'm going to go back and divide both sides by 3. And of course 3 over 3 is 1. And 42 over 3 is 14. So I'm going to get the absolute value of 4z plus 2 equals 14. So now that it's isolated, you do your 2 breakouts. You're going to solve 4z plus 2 equals 14. And you're going to solve 4z plus 2 equals -14. Notice I did not change the 4z plus 2 side. I only changed the right side of the equation. Please don't ever change the absolute value part over. Okay, and I'm going to let you solve those and check them. You should get 2 solutions and you should always check them for extraneous, because if 1 or 2 of them don't work, then we say those are extraneous. For this one, notice you don't have absolute value bars, so you don't do 2 equations. So I'm just going to do, this one. -2a plus 6 is greater than 8. So if I say let's subtract 6 from both sides, I get -2a. The 6's cancel, it's greater than 8 minus 6 is 2. Now notice what I have to do here. I have to divide by a negative. So when I divide by a negative, that turns this sign around. So now this goes the other way and I get 1a, because -2 over -2 is 1, is less than or equal to 1. Okay, and if I say to graph, I need you to graph. So remember, 0 is here, -1 is here. I circle it, but I don't fill it in, and the arrow points this way. So I go that way, okay? And again, you don't need two equations. Just because you have inequalities doesn't mean you need two equations. Okay, now this one says to show your work, and we've done a couple of absolute value bar ones, so I'm going to keep going. And then here, 17 just says, give an example of a real number that is not an integer. So what I want you to do is pull up your very first assignment I gave you, and you might have to like say show more down here because I couldn't find mine once. I was like, where'd they go? And that was the real number card sort. And so if I look at the real number card sort, I remember one particular person did a really good job. So I want to pull his up. If you look at this real number card sort and it's correct as his is, you should be able to get an idea of what these questions are asking you. So for this one, it says, give an example of a real number that is not an integer. Well, let's take a look at his. His real numbers are this entire bubble. Well, integers are all of these. So I can't use anything in this bubble, but I can use any fraction or decimal. And I could also use anything here because they're all real, but they're not integers. So I could have said 2/3, 3.14, 63, whatever. Not 63, I'm sorry, 0.3 repeating, whatever. So when it says, give an example, I totally expect everybody to give me a different integer. Please don't all copy the same. True or false? 4x plus 18 is greater than 4x minus 9 has an all real solution. Well, let's work it out. 4x plus 18 is greater than 4x minus 9. So what if I subtracted 4x from both sides? Well, you can see the 4x's go away, so I'm left with 18 is greater than -9. And that's true. Positives are greater than negatives. So if it's true, then the solution set is all reals. So yes. But what if it was false? What would we say if it was false? We would say no solution set. So let me write that in red. If false, say it was something like -1 is greater than 0, which we know is false, then we would say no solution, the empty brackets, or you could write the words no solution. Okay? All right, is pi irrational? And I'm going to send you right back to that chart. And you can answer true or false. And the last one. That's not the one I wanted. I was on this. Is 0 a whole number? Let's go back to looking good, looking true. Okay, so reference this chart when I ask you those questions. Now remember, I told you I posted all the solutions, so if somebody thinks they're going to be wise and just send me this back, you're going to get a 0 and I'm not going to let you resubmit. I'm tired of rewriting to people, hey, I gave you the answer key on purpose. That wasn't a mistake on my part. Please show me your work. Like this answer, 34/21, I showed you the work, you should show me yours as well. So on the test, you might have to classify numbers. So if I said, is -3.14 natural, whole, integer, rational, or irrational, you would say, well, it's a decimal, so it's rational, but it's not an integer, whole, or natural. Fractions are also rationals. Cubed roots of things that don't come out to exact integers have to be irrational. 0 is whole, 12 is a whole number. 0 is whole, 12 is a counting number, and -123 is an integer. You know how to simplify by combining like terms. You know how to evaluate by plugging in. I've told you the rules of PEMDAS, and I'm going to show you one more example on PEMDAS. You know how to solve and graph, and if it says graph and you don't graph, you're not doing your work. So don't forget to solve and graph equations and inequalities. I will probably have more than 3 multiple choice questions. I'm thinking they're mostly going to be multiple choice. I'll just say multiple choice and true falses, but I don't know how many yet. And the homework review sheet is already posted in Google Classroom. So let me do one more PEMDAS. And I'm going to choose this one. So this is PEMDAS, and it's not absolute value. So I only need one equation because it's not absolute value. So please don't go off and do absolute value. Every equation you had 2 solutions thinking you're going to cover all bases. Because it's PEMDAS, I cannot do 7 minus 4 first. I have to first distribute and then do the 7 minus. So it's going to be 7 minus 12x minus 4 is greater than negative 36. And then I'm going to say, 7 and negative 4 combine to 3, so it's 3 minus 12x is greater than negative 36. And then it looks like I want to subtract 3 from both sides. No, that is a negative, isn't it? So I get negative 12x is greater than negative 39. And if I divide both sides by this negative 12, I get x is greater than, notice what happened here, because I divided by a negative, 39/12. I don't know why it seems funky to me, but there it is. So why did I feel like that one went differently? So let me make sure I did that right. It feels very weird about that. I feel like I did something wrong with the math, and I hate to stop this worksheet saying everything is perfect. No, that was right. And 39/12 simplifies to 13/4. So on the number line, 13/4 would be about here, and it would go this way. So yes, everything on that one was correct. Here's an absolute value equation. I first isolated the absolute value, which was x minus 1, by adding 3 to both sides and then dividing both sides by 2. And then I did my breakout equations. So I need you guys to understand that there are always 2 equations for absolute values, 1 equation for everything else. 2 equations for abs value. Okay. All right. So that's all I have. I will be available if you want to post questions within the body of the homework. Please don't send me any more emails about questions. If you have something, send me the private comments here, because then I can go right to your work. If you send it to me by an email, I have to look you up and see which class you're in, then I have to go find that class. But if you post it here, it brings me this beautiful link that says, here you are right here, and it takes me straight to you. So that's all I have. I'm going to go ahead and sign off and wish you guys the best of luck.